Morning Forum. I'm back today with another review on a special gun that I was looking for since quite some time. It's the Colt SP1. The SP1 is pretty interesting if you're a gun collector, as it's one of the earliest, or actually the earliest AR-15 probably that you can get your hands on, conceived exclusively for the civilian market. As an AR collector, the SP1 is definitely something you want to have, as it's really the base of all the AR-15 that were to follow. The first guns that were sent to Vietnam were very similar to this one, especially with regard to some features, or rather the lack thereof. And by that I mean the forward assist, which, as you can see, is not here, and also the case, the brass deflector that is missing as well. Further missing are the sort of on the lower receiver on the right side, the how do I say, the protrusions that protect the magazine release, which are added subsequently, and also a protrusion here underneath the dust cover, which I found out has been included as to prevent the dust cover from bending, or rather like being trapped into the lower receiver when you open the guns, clean it, and close it. Overall, the SP1 is nothing special if you got like a normal AR-15, but it's got a really nice retro look to it. What really got me into purchasing this one is first of all the serial number, which is fairly low. It's I traced it back to 1973. You can do that on the Colt's website, by the way. And also the fact that it came with some pretty interesting items as a package. By that I mean this original Colt optic that is actually made in Japan, if I'm not mistaken, which you mount here. I still haven't done it, but I will perhaps document it along the way when I take it to the range, which I still haven't. It came with this original bayonet, which is really, really cool. It still says Colts, Hartford, USA, but the bayonet per se, I believe it is made in Germany. Does it say somewhere? Yeah, in West Germany. At least this one is made in West Germany. So you can really feel that the Cold War was pretty hot back then. I mean, bayonets made in West Germany, you never knew what was going to happen. It came with the original sling, and also with the original bipod. So as a package, it really doesn't get any better than this. And if you're into the whole Vietnam era look, or in general Vietnam era field gear, this package overall is really great. For Swiss standards, it was also quite cheap. For the price I paid for all this package, you can find sort of middle quality AR-15s. By middle quality, I mean perhaps Ruger or that kind of stuff. Having a look inside the gun, it doesn't look like it's been abused too much. Not that I'm planning to do it by myself, but still. The magazine, 20 rounds, Colt AR-15, Hartford. Why did I get this SP1? Well, as you know, for my other visa perhaps, and in theory, but also in practice, I'm more of an SBR guy. I got here to compare with my marketing setup, which still lacks some parts, but it's more or less what it should be. I'm more on an SBR, guys, but this is when it comes down to practical terms. Okay, when I go to the range, an SBR is more practical. It looks cool. It's light, and it pretty much does what also longer guns do, just in a shorter package. So I don't really see the purpose of having the long gun in the first place. This gun right here, however, tells a history. Okay, it's not just a vehicle to put 2 to 3 down range. It's really something you could put on the wall, actually. If you're into guns, and actually, as a matter of fact, I got a tattoo with the exact same gun on my arm. Well, it's supposed to be an M16 A1, but whatever. This was the first 2 to 3 government issue gun that I'm aware of. I hope I'm not making any mistake. It was something radical back then when it was introduced. Nowadays it's pretty standard. But back then it was definitely not something you would come across every day. I mean, what did you have? M14s with wooden stock, AK-47 with wooden stock. I don't know, some machines like the PPS-41 wooden stock. This came with sort of, well, okay, it's not plastic, correct me if I'm wrong, it's whatever. Composite furniture. It was lightweight, it had a new round. So, you know, the pistol grip was also not that standard. As a soldier, probably as a GI, being issued something like this will definitely raise some eyebrows and perhaps some concerns, rightfully so, if we think back that the first batches of M16 that were issued had some issues. I don't want to get into details why, there's plenty of information out there why it was so. But still, I mean, it's cool to have a piece of history like this at home, okay? It really tells a story. It's not the original one, granted this is the civilian version, but still. It's from 1973. It was not long, was not a long time since the first M16 was introduced. So, I really like this aspect of this gun, and I was willing to pay a little bit of premium to get my hands on something like this, as opposed to a normal maybe clone, like a 20-inch clone of an M16A1, which you could probably do. This one has the original markings, the original parts. The stock is the A1, which is a bit shorter. The pistol grip is the old one. The hand guard, is it gonna break? I don't think so. It doesn't look rock solid like other guns that I have, but still. I wish I could have the 3-prong flash hider for this. Actually, if I find one, I will probably buy it. I don't want to buy just like I would rather buy an old 3-prong flash hider, but those are kind of hard to come by, I guess. So I'm not sure if, just for the sake to have a 3-prong flash hider, I would just buy a brand new one and pretend that it's old. I mean, right now I have the original package. This one has the sort of A1 style flash hider. It's not A2. It has the slots also at the bottom, so it doesn't compensate anything. It's just flash suppression. I don't know, if I come across a 3-prong one, let's see. Maybe I will buy it and swap it and see how it looks like, take a picture or two, and then go back to the original one. I for sure don't want to throw away the original one, just to go back to the really old school look of the Vietnam era. I'm looking forward to see how this gun performs on the range. The sights are A1. They're really, the front sight post is round. Here at the back you can choose between 2 options. They don't look that different to me. I still have to read myself into what the difference is. You can adjust just for, not for windage and elevation, unlike the A2 or the Mark 18 LMT rear sight that I have. You can adjust just for left or right. Should be enough, just for shooting at the range. This gun here, as I understand, should have the 1 in 12-inch twist, which, as I understand, should be better for lighter bullets, which are not really the trend nowadays. So in theory, some people could argue by virtue of this twist rate, you could not squeeze that much accuracy out of this platform, but it was not my concern when I was looking. It's not my general concern when I buy a gun. I mean, having that sniper rifle accuracy, and it was for sure not my concern when I was looking to buy one of these. So, it's if you want something original, you will not want it to be also a standard in other things. I mean, this is how things are, and this is how they will stay. At this stage, this gun is actually the second long, long. This is the second full-size long gun that I own, beside my SIG 550. And it's also the second gun that I have with the Bayonet. The other one is also the SIG 550. So maybe down the road on my Instagram account, I will do some photos with the bayonets mounted on, just to see how they look like. We just call the Bayonet, if you think about it, it's kind of a remnant from an older eras, I guess, when bayonets really had, or maybe still had, a purpose. Nowadays, I don't know, I think it's just more of a tradition than something you could actually use in combat. If you're out using your bayonet, I mean, you have probably bigger issues, and so I wouldn't rely too much on that. But as I said, since here we're not talking about paying for something that is definitely more useful than something else. Here we're paying for a historical package, okay? This is an homage to history, and soldiers back then, as actually still now in the Swiss Army, were issued with the bayonet, which you would eventually mount and just pray you wouldn't have to use. You never know. I was lucky enough not having to go into war, but yeah, I mean, fingers crossed, you never know what's going to happen in the future. Yeah, how does it compare, at least from the handling, to some newer guns? Well, first of all, the weight. I mean, this little package here seems almost as heavy, if not more, than the SP1. I got a lot of junk hanging from this little marketing here, like aim points, mounts, detachable rear sights, a super tactical stock, the LMT, somewhat one. I also spray painted it, by the way. Was not like this when you last saw it, I think. This one is very light, okay? It handles very well, doesn't feel front heavy, which is good. You're not thinking, I mean, you were running a, I think, 20-inch barrel. Manipulation are pretty much the same. No difference here. The dust cover is a bit of a pain, okay? What this one is, when you operate the ball carrier group and the dust cover opens, getting it back is somewhat more difficult, okay? You can see it doesn't, it's sometimes you really have to look for it with your nails. So definitely having at least the protrusion here at the bottom of the dust cover would certainly be practical. I believe the first gun that had this was and now for sure I'm gonna make a mistake, but try to read myself into the subject, but there are some people that are more experts in it than I am. I think the XM16E1 was that lower used in that gun was the first one that was sporting this little protrusion here for the dust cover. It also had the forward assist. It did lack, however, the breast deflector. So the XM16E1 did have the protrusion and also the forward assist, which this one lacks, so for some reason. I mean, I believe the XM16E1 was already issued by the time this SP1 hit the market in '73. Perhaps it was just old stock and they didn't bother to retrofit and update it. This one here also has a difference in the ball carrier group, as that it's cut as not being able to be running full auto. Let's see. Yeah, you can see it here. The fact that it's cut out right until the end means even when it's cycling, the end of the ball carrier group does not hit the whatever it's called, the disconnect or actuator or something, or the sear of the full auto trigger group. So for some reason, maybe it was a concern back then from a legal point of view, Colt decided to go this way. Not that I'm planning to run this gun in full auto. I mean, I don't have the lower for it first. I don't feel like going through the paperwork. And it would also be a deviation from the fact that this is an original package. I would certainly like to have one of the older XM16A1 or earlier versions of lowers, I mean of full gun for what it, if available, but it's just impossible to come across one of those. I mean, in the United States, maybe they still have some available for purchase. I came across some of these really exotic old lowers, I mean, or full guns for what matters, in Southeast Asia, in Cambodia. In Cambodia, they have some ranges where as a tourist you can pass by and shoot a variety of guns from the Vietnam era. They have even the grenade launchers that you can actually shoot if you got enough money. You just go there, pay cash, and then you can try a bunch of guns in full auto, and they really got really exotic models. I mean, some of the earlier Car 15s, I mean, with collapsible stock that looks like an A1 stock, which is collapsible. Some of those, I mean, you name it, okay? Bizarre early guns with limited runs. They were issued, I don't know, to whatever special forces were operating in Southeast Asia before maybe the war got a bit more mainstream. They found their way to Cambodia, and they're still being used. They're being mistreated quite a lot. I mean, remember, one of those guns I was shooting, it jammed, and they just took a tank of car oil, of motor oil, and just dumped it straight into, I mean, they just opened the bolt hold open here, and they just dumped the oil straight into it. So this was their idea of fixing malfunctionings. So no tap and rack, nothing, just open, pour oil, close, and try again. Needless to say, we were just shooting at water mounts in a little tunnel, so, I mean, the amount of abuse these guns take is just unimaginable, but they're still working, so it means they were built correctly. I'm a bit nostalgic about these old guns. I mean, back then, when Western nations still were sort of teaming up against the Soviet bloc, you know, there was a certain common sense of identity and purpose across the Western world and civilization, which today is totally lost. Today it's all about social justice and positive discrimination of whatever group can just find an acronym and just go in the streets and protest. So, I mean, something this radical being introduced today in the defense sector as, you know, comparable to how radical this was when it came in, I just don't see. There is no will, there is no funds, there is just no appetite for having some real innovation in the defense sector. This also explains part of my passion for gathering these old school weapons. As I mentioned in other videos, I write sort of the weapons that were introduced right before the year 2000, in the 90s, in the 80s. There you could still see how every nation was having sort of its ideas of what a good service rifle would be. Then, due to consolidation, globalization, you name it, a lot of companies went bust. A lot of companies merged. As a consequence, the design and everything was streamlined. And even though I think the AR is a nice design, I like variety, and this is just something you don't come across every day like you used to. I mean, Germany now would probably switch to a more 416 model, so say goodbye to the G36. Switzerland, I don't know, maybe. France, probably as well, so no FAMAS. The UK still has a bullpup, let's see. Then I doubt they still have the industrial power to come up with something radically new as well. The United States, M16. The Russians are still running AK-based guns, so I think we're going back to like we were like around World War II. I mean, or post World War II was AK versus FAL, and later the M16. And in the future will be like a AR-based design versus an AK-based design. There probably is no money and I think no will to deviate and do something fancy just for the sake of it. Which is sad, but that's another discussion. Having said that, I don't know where I'm gonna go next with my collection. I'm a bit short on cash lately. Let's see. I'm always on the lookout for something exotic on the second-hand market, but yeah, for the time being, I'm gonna try to make some videos shooting these, maybe post some results about the performance against maybe the SIG 550, which is a full-size long gun, which would be nice to compare with this one. And yeah, stay tuned. If you have some questions or some special wishes, just post them, and I'll see. When I find some time after work, I may do another video. Thanks all for watching, and have a nice day.